cruises. Are they a great value in travel, or are they a total waste of money? Especially now that the cruise lines seem determined to nickel and dime cruisers. Hi, I'm Melissa, a university professor who loves to cruise and who loves to talk ship. And in this episode of the Cruise Pod, we're going to talk about whether or not cruises are still worth it. It's undeniable that the cruise industry has changed a lot in recent years, especially post-2020. So now more than ever, it's essential to really weigh the pros and cons to determine if setting sail on a cruise still remains the best choice for your vacation. So let's embark on this exploration together. First, let's talk about the surge in cruise demand. Because to understand the current state of cruising, you gotta look at the recent trends in cruise demand. The COVID-19 pandemic brought the cruise industry, obviously, to a standstill in 2020. Everybody knows what happened. Ships were docked, voyages were canceled, and everything just completely stalled for 6 to 12 months. However, as travel restrictions eased and health protocols were implemented, the industry started to encounter a resurgence. Obviously, it was a little slow at first as everybody was unsure still about the safety of cruising and cruise ships being human petri dishes. But post-2021, all of a sudden now we have this remarkable resurgence and this huge boom in cruising. According to the Cruise Lines International Association, which is CALIA, passenger volume reached 31.7 million in 2023, surpassing 2019 levels by 7%. And this upward trajectory just continues. Last year is estimated that nearly 36 million travelers cruised. So this rebound, it indicates not just a recovery, but also a growing interest in cruise travel as a vacation option. Now, there are a lot of different factors that contribute to this resurgence. Of course, a big part of it is that pent-up demand for travel. I think a lot of folks, me included, really saw 2020 as a time to really reflect and see what's important in life. And a lot of us realized that we love travel. And being stuck at home and forced to not be able to travel really kind of spurred that wanderlust and made us even more eager to travel and explore after all of those miserable, prolonged restrictions. Not only that, but another contributor to that demand is the introduction of new and innovative ships. Post-2020, there's been so many exciting new things in cruising. All of these big new mega ships, new diverse itineraries, new ports of call. All of these new things, they're exciting. We want to explore new things. And when we don't experience these, we have that FOMO. So all of these things have also played a significant role in attracting cruisers, not just bringing back seasoned cruisers, but also attracting newcomers as well. Now, of course, I'm a business professor, although I don't specialize in economics, but I do know the basics of supply and demand. And pretty much everybody knows that with increased demand often comes higher prices. During the pandemic's peak, obviously cruise lines were stalled out, but as they slowly were allowed to return to service, they kind of had to offer rock bottom fares to entice wary travelers. At that time, obviously, we were still unsure about the long-term effects of COVID. We were still very hesitant about it, and also how easily or not it might spread on a cruise ship. So they really had to offer really low prices to woo people to even attempt to cruise. However, as confidence in cruising returned, so did the pricing. And we went from rock bottom fares to what now I'm seeing are, in some cases, astronomical fares. Reports from last year indicated that cruise fares had risen significantly. Now, I know this anecdotally. I am a travel agent. By the way, if you want to learn how to be a travel agent, I'll drop info in the comments. And there are some analysts saying, though, that last year, statistically, not just anecdotally, there have been increases of 20 to 30% compared to 2019 levels. And then looking ahead, economists project that for 2025, prices could be up to 50% higher than they were back in 2019, which really wasn't that long ago. So this trend, it's reflective of both the industry's recovery, which is awesome, but also the robust demand from travelers who are eager to return to that pre-pandemic travel and return to the seas in particular. When you look at specific cruise lines, Royal Caribbean reported that their revenue for the second half of 2024 was 25% higher than it was in 2019, which was their previous high water mark for the cruise industry. So this surge is attributed to strong demand, advanced booking trends, and optimistic financial projections. So pricing, it's definitely going up. Demand definitely going up. As a travel agent, I'm already seeing cruises throughout this year already at capacity, which is crazy. It's important to recognize too that not only are cruise fares increasing significantly, but other onboard costs are as well. So it's important to acknowledge the fact that cruises, while I still argue offer a tremendous value and is one of the best ways to travel, they're really not entirely all-inclusive. And they may not necessarily, especially now with all these price increases, be the best deal. So when you're taking a cruise, you gotta look at not just your base fare, which we know is increasing and increasing and increasing, but there are other ancillary costs that can add up too, which really impacts the overall expense of your vacation. Notably, there have recently been some pretty significant price hikes with drink packages, Wi-Fi, gratuities, and other things related to those ancillary cruise products. For instance, Carnival Cruise Line, they recently upped their Cheers drink package significantly with a 17% price increase. And this is after they raised prices not even that long ago. While some of these amenities, obviously like the drink package and Wi-Fi, are not mandatory, these are things that a lot of cruisers enjoy. Or in the case of Wi-Fi, I have to have it. I teach on a cruise ship. I'm working on a cruise ship a lot of times, so it's not an option for me. So I have to pay for it. So this is going to really increase the cost for a lot of cruisers, even people like me who cruise free on casino offers. And by the way, if you want to learn more about that, I'll share a video with you that tells you all about how you can do that. And these incremental increases, although they might seem small on an individual basis and per price increase, it starts to creep up over time and they start to accumulate, and that can have an overall significant impact on your budget. Now let's talk about cruises compared to all-inclusive resorts. Because given the rising cost, some travelers are starting to reconsider their options, comparing cruises to things like options like all-inclusive resorts. And what's great about all-inclusives, I like those too. I obviously love cruising, but I love me some all-inclusives as well. All-inclusives are more all-inclusive compared to cruising. They often bundle your accommodations, but also your meals, obviously, but your drinks too, soft drinks and alcohol, and a lot of activities in one upfront price. So the cost structure here is a little more transparent sometimes than cruising, because in contrast, while cruise fare includes your accommodations and meals, there are a lot of extras like specialty dining, drink packages, even soft drinks on most cruise lines, and things like the photo package and other things. These can incur additional fees. Data from 2024 indicate that the average cost per night for an all-inclusive resort was comparable to that of a cruise when accounting for these extras. And this comparison has led some to start to view all-inclusive resorts as an equally attractive option to cruising, if not a more appealing option than cruising. And when evaluating the financial aspects of choosing your vacation, it is important to consider what is included and what is not. All-inclusive resorts do typically cover a wider range of amenities, which reduces that need for additional spending. Now, on the other hand, cruises offer the advantage of visiting multiple destinations. You wake up in a new country, which I think is awesome, and that can justify these hikes in price and these extra costs for some travelers. But you just have to weigh what's important to you and price out the cost of an all-inclusive compared to a cruise. But when you're doing that, you have to make sure you add in all those ancillary charges that you're going to incur with the cruise that you won't with an all-inclusive. So now that difference between the two, they're starting to become more even as cruise prices and all of the ancillary costs have gone up and up and up. And that's causing some cruisers to really reevaluate if cruising is still the best path for them. Now, I argue that cruising is still a phenomenal value. And for me, I love it. So the pendulum hasn't swung for me just yet. But if we continue to see these price hikes, that may change. Now, of course, when you're looking at a cruise versus an all-inclusive, you have to weigh the pros and cons to determine if a cruise is still a good value for your money. When deciding between a cruise and an all-inclusive resort or other land vacations or land travel, it is important, of course, to consider the benefits and the drawbacks of each. Now, what I love about cruising, as I mentioned, you get that amazing, unique experience of visiting multiple destinations and often multiple countries in one trip. So you get that sense of adventure and exploration. You get to see more of the world in terms of checking countries off your list. There's a ton of onboard entertainment. I love the fact that you can relax at night, see a Broadway style show, have a great dinner, relax, not have to plan, not have to worry about reservations, not have to get tickets to a show, not have to get transportation to something that you're going to do. And then you go to bed and you wake up and bam, you're in a new country, or at least a new port of call. However, the additional cost for certain amenities and the structured nature of cruises might be less appealing to some. And some people maybe have cruised in the past because of the value, although they don't inherently love the structure of cruises. Now, on the other hand, all-inclusive resorts, They provide a stationary vacation experience, so you do have more time to explore that area where you're at, but you can be pretty limited. If you want to get out and see different parts or other regions around where you're at, you have to get transportation and get around. Now, the convenience of having most of your expenses covered up front with an all-inclusive can make that a little more relaxing in terms of budgeting. You don't have to worry about tracking your dollars as much as you do now on a cruise ship where they nickel and dime you to death. But staying in one location, that can be unappealing to some folks. I do tend to get bored when I travel. I do like all-inclusives, but I would not want to stay more than absolute 6 days or so at an all-inclusive because I do start to get bored. And there's not as much of a range of activities and entertainment that you find on a cruise ship. So you not only have to weigh the cost difference between cruising and all-inclusives, and again, now that difference is starting to even out as cruise costs have gone up so much, but you also have to weigh the pros and cons of each and which of these factors appeal to you and which of them you consider to be detrimental in making the best decision and determining if you think a cruise is still a great value for the money. Now let's talk about the enduring value of cruises, because I argue despite the rising costs, and yeah, it is annoying, and I notice it in my pocketbook, even when I sail free on casino offers, the costs do start to add up. But even still with that, cruises, I think, continue to offer exceptional value. The ability to explore all those different destinations, not having to pack and unpack and take other flights and take trains and arrange transportation, that for me is a huge draw. I love the all-encompassing nature of cruises, combining the travel, the accommodations, the dining, the entertainment, all of it in one. So it might not be the cheapest thing now, it's more expensive, but for me, it's still an easier, more enriching, and enjoyable experience. And I think the strong demand really demonstrates that. I think a lot of people agree with me and they find cruising to be a phenomenal value despite the increasing prices. Because also what we know from economics with supply and demand, if prices are increasing concurrent with increasing demand and they both continue to rise, obviously there's not a pricing problem. So pricing is going to continue to increase until we start to see a shift in demand and it becomes stagnant or starts to decrease. And we're not seeing that. So if I have to predict trends in the future for cruise industry and cruise pricing, I unfortunately hate to say we're probably going to see prices continue to escalate. And this is especially the case as the cruise industry continues to innovate. They took some huge financial losses during 2020. These innovations like these mega ships that they keep rolling out, like MSC World America, it's a monster of a ship. These things are expensive. And as they start to introduce these innovative new things and these ships just keep getting bigger and bigger, it's a big investment. And these cruise lines have a lot of times a significant debt that needs to be repaid. So of course, this is going to bear out in the cruise fare. Now, let's talk about how to maximize the value of a cruise, because if you're looking to make the most of your cruise while still keeping your budget in line and those costs in check, here are some strategies. I try them. I'm not always successful, admittedly, but here are my suggestions. One is related to beverages. Instead of buying the drink package, because it's expensive and it just gets more and more expensive, and Carnival's not the only one that's been jacking up the price, other cruise lines have as well, including Royal Caribbean, look at the individual cruise line's policy, because most cruise lines do allow you to bring a limited amount of your own beverages on board. This goes not just for canned water and canned soft drinks in sealed packages, but many cruise lines will also allow you to bring certain alcoholic beverages, but within very tight constraints. So you have to make sure you're following the rules. It has to be an unopened bottle. But look at that and see if there are opportunities to bring your own beverages on board to save on those really expensive drink packages. Because even cruise lines that have a bubbles package like Carnival or a soft drink package, that can add up too, especially when you add on gratuities. Another potential area to save money is connectivity. I've tried to disconnect on times when I'm cruising and I don't have to teach online, but it's hard. I'm so kind of connected to my phone and social media, of course, that I can't go more than about a day without needing to buy the Wi-Fi. So with this one, I can give you the advice, but I can admittedly tell you I don't practice what I preach. Now, for most people, while staying connected, it is important, especially if you have to work during a trip. Wi-Fi can be pricey. And again, we see huge price increases with Wi-Fi over the past couple of years. So it is getting pretty expensive. So consider using this as an excuse to finally disconnect, or at least disconnect at the start of the cruise, or just buy Wi-Fi for 1 or 2 days and disconnect the other day. days and try to enjoy a digital detox. Now, my favorite Wi-Fi tip is Wi-Fi is expensive. I like to ball on a budget. I admit I have to have Wi-Fi. I'm hooked on Wi-Fi. My kids always want Wi-Fi too. I'm not buying Wi-Fi times 3. I buy Wi-Fi and then we trade off. I give them each something like half an hour a day where I will log off my Wi-Fi, they will log on to my account and use my Wi-Fi. I get it the majority of the time because I'm paying for it, but that saves us a lot of money. Now, note that some cruise lines, namely MSC, they lock their Wi-Fi down. So you can't be doing that sharing and trading off. So check the policies of the cruise line, but if you can trade off on Wi-Fi, that's a nice happy medium of where you're not fully disconnected, but you're not paying full price and getting price gouged on Wi-Fi. Another area to potentially save is dining and extras. Be selective with specialty dining and all your onboard purchases. Most cruise main dining rooms offer pretty good menus and you get great food and excellent meals. So I do love a good specialty steakhouse because I love me some steak, but the MDR has really nice options as well. And those specialty restaurants, those can add up at $55, $65, $70 per person plus gratuity. Similarly, consider whether the photo packages and those other extras, they might be nice, but are they really necessary? And that can be a way that you can save on your cruise expenses as well. Another is to examine your booking strategies. If you follow my content, you know I am a big advocate of independent excursions. As long as you're really good with time management, you don't want to miss the ship, because if you go out on your own with an excursion and if you miss that return to ship time, that ship will not wait for you. You're left behind. So be careful of that. But if you have good time management skills and you're not a super anxious person, you should be doing independent excursions versus with the cruise line. Cruise line excursions are expensive, which is why this represents a cost savings. They're also putting you in a bunch of other random people, herding you like cattle. I like to do things at my own pace, when I want, how I want, when I want, and by myself or just with my people. I don't want to be herded like cattle with a bunch of randos. So booking independent excursions can be significantly cheaper. You can also save money by booking your fare outright and booking your cruise during the off season. Usually that's going to be when kids are in school. It'll be a lot cheaper that way as well. Also look at loyalty programs. Virgin Voyages and MSC are two cruise lines that allow you to match your status across other cruise lines. So say, for example, if you are Diamond with Carnival, you can match that status even if you've never sailed MSC or Virgin before and enjoy a lot of great perks. And these perks sometimes can save you money. Perks can include things like free laundry service, a beverage or two that's free, discounts, things like that that can help you save money. And of course, booking on the cruise lines where you have loyalty will save you that money as well. So I want to know, what are your favorite ways to save on cruising? And do you think the cruise value is still there? Is that why you cruise? Is because you get more bang for your buck? Or do you just love cruising and you don't really care about the cost factor? I want to know what you think. And if you like this content, make sure to like, comment, and share. And as always, visit my website, profmelissa.com, for free port guides, cruise information, advice, and so much more.